Hello and welcome to the Rubber Duck Dev Show. I'm Chris.
And I'm Creston.
I'm Lucian.
And Seb, you're muted. And you're still muted.
Hello,
there you go. There we go. And that's Seb.
I'm Seb. Again. We're good.
Welcome to the show. Thank you guys for being with me today. Today we are going to talk about monetizing your dev content. Hey, Sire, welcome to the show. So before we get into the meat of the discussion, though, as always, week in review. Creston, how was your week?
Running around like a chicken with his head cut off, trying to get all this stuff done.
Yep.
And it's not working. Although a significant thing will be happening. So I was working with a client and they needed to build a certain feature for being able to look through text and convert it to URLs, like look for URLs and basically make them anchor tags.
Mm-hmm.
And I found this gem that does it called Rails Autolink. It's fairly old, but they've had some recent updates to it. But we actually had a need to modify it. Like it needed one additional feature that it wasn't doing. And I was like, oh, it's too bad. Like how hard is this going to do? And I actually looked at the code and I was like, I think I can change one line of code and add this feature we need. So I added one line of code and voila, now it has this additional feature. Now we did it in a branch, but now for the first time ever, I'm going to, I think the first time ever, contribute to open source. I'm actually going to push a PR with this one line code change.
Wow.
Giving this additional feature.
Nice.
So yeah. So that's up with me. What about you?
Well, so turns out I'm really good at working on computers, not so good at changing out showers. We were trying to take the old shower out of our house and went to pull the handle off and it was just corroded on there and stuck. And I tried for like 2 weeks to get this thing off, soaking it in vinegar and knocking the corrosion off, and I just couldn't. So I started taking screws out to get this thing out, right? Because I just couldn't figure out any other way. And Sunday morning, I woke up and realized that there were still two screws back in the recess that I hadn't taken out yet. And I was like, oh, well, if I take those out, that'll just release the handle and I can get on with this project, right? So having never messed with plumbing before, I made the stupid mistake of taking those 2 screws out. And that's where the mixer is that holds all the water back in the handle. And this is a second story shower. So I flooded my house Sunday morning. I had water just leaking down through the light fixtures in the ceiling on the first floor, and my kids were sweeping water out the front door, and I was scrambling around. You know, I went outside to the water main to turn the water off to the house, and lo and behold, that valve was corroded, and I couldn't turn the handle to shut the water off. So I had to run back into the garage and get a hammer and a chisel and go back out there and start beating on that thing to try to get it. And finally got that water off. And, then we spent the next couple hours cleaning the house up, and I decided I'm just going to stick to computers from now on. So how about you, Lucian?
That's such a good story. Yeah, my week, so I at work, what I did, and I got so much, how to say, happiness out of the following thing that I think all of us sense from time to time. I was focused on like performance improvements, some responses from API and some web pages. And you do a PR that has 1 or 2 lines, just a small change. After you debug almost 1 day, going to, I don't know, A/B and profiling and N+1s and everything. And at the end of the day, there is 1 PR that has, I don't know, 1 line or 1 load somewhere or an include somewhere. And of course, and that takes, I don't know, 50 milliseconds or 100 milliseconds sometimes out of a response. And today, this is what I did most of the week. And today I did the strangest one where I got an improvement by returning early from a method in Ruby before it hits the DB, because I noticed that it was querying the database, but the query that it did almost always was returning in some parts as false, like not empty. So I identify a condition and I return early from the Ruby code, not to hit the DB, which actually bring improvement in a lot of cases. So for me, that was, I don't know, felt that sense of, oh my God, at the end of the day, I managed to submit a small thing. Yeah, that's the highlight of my week in a way. Yeah.
That's just one of you throw your arms up. Yes, I did
Yes,
it.
finally. Of course, after almost one day where, oh, I did that and nothing, and I did that and nothing, and I did that and nothing, and I was thinking, oh, at the end of the day, no improvement. Okay, I will start tomorrow fresh, and then had a bit of idea. And of course, I was keep discussing with a good friend that he actually helped me understand what is happening there, and take like discussing some steps and really working through. And actually, I cannot say that was my idea, that was his idea, but to do the improvement, but to identify what is happening, but to actually submit the PR, that was a great idea. Like felt it a small
Awesome. Well, Seb, how about you?
Well, I have also busy weeks, but the one not work related part is that I needed a calendar in my kitchen. But because I am the developer and I work with Google calendars, like I have 5 of them, and my wife has also her own, and we share some of them, and it's like complete mess. So I could not have just a normal paper calendar, and I needed a calendar that would hang on in my kitchen, but connects with Google API and fetches all my events in real time. And that was a nice project that was in my head like forever. But an additional thing is that I didn't want a tablet and like iPad or anything like that, because it's first like too expensive, and the other one, it's a screen, the screen is lighting, and I have like small kids. I don't want them to look at the screen like all the time. So I reached out to my friend who is like a constructor, and he introduced me into the topic of Raspberry Pi again, because I had it at university last time, and we had a lot of good chat about it. So the output of this is that he took his 3D printer into work, and we did some initial like concepts, some specifications, and now we have like a calendar with a paper screen that we can hang on in our kitchens. And this is just the best thing I have in my house just right now.
I want one. Seb, I want pictures and instructions in the Discord,
Yeah.
please.
Yeah. So this is actually working, right? Because it's just not hooked up yet. But yeah, so it's super fun little project that I spent some time last week, but mostly credits to Wojtek, my friend, that he did almost everything. So yeah, big shout outs to him, because great work.
Yeah.
So what is the screen? What is the screen that you're using on that?
Whoa, I can send it to you. I will not put the serial number out of my head on the screen live.
So yeah, cool. Yeah, I'd love to see in the hobby channel on our Discord. I'd love to see some pictures and instructions on that. Because now I want one. So nobody else flooded their house, huh? That's just me. Crap. Well, all right.
Now I took a hedge trimmer to my AC Freon coil and leaked all the Freon about a year ago.
Okay, you win. That was way more expensive than mine.
Yeah, that was quite expensive.
All right, so chat, Feta, Eric, welcome. Glad Glad you guys are here. All right, chat. So what we're going to talk about today is monetizing your dev content. So a lot of us make content that we put out on the internet, like this show, or, you know, Seb has a show. Lucian puts newsletters out every week. You know, there's all kinds of different content that devs are making. OSS stuff, which you don't typically monetize OSS, though you can in certain ways and still keep it OSS. But there are, you know, we also have bills to pay and, you know, kids to feed, and we like to wear clothes once in a while, and, you know, it's things you got to pay for. So monetizing that stuff, because that stuff takes a lot of time, monetizing it is useful. But how do you do that? So what are some ways to do that? So I brought, Lucian actually kind of brought this topic up in the Discord a while back and was asking about this. And I knew that Seb had spent, because we've had some conversations before, he had spent some time thinking through some of these things and how to do this. And then the two of them started talking and getting some back and forth on, you know, how to do certain things with monetizing. So I thought it would be a good show to bring them on and talk about how do we start discovering how to do this. So I don't think any of us would call ourselves experts at monetization here, right?
We're programmers. We are not salesmen nor marketers usually.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
So, but I think it's good for us to kind of talk through from a perspective of developers figuring out how to monetize stuff in ways that we can understand, you know, without having a marketing degree and, you know, doing all that stuff, so that other programmers can benefit from this and, you know, make a bit of a living, or at least some loose change off of the work that they do, you know? So Lucian, let's start with you. What kind of initial questions did you have that kind of started this discussion?
Yeah, so there are a couple of things that first it's you already started saying that okay, we are producing content for developers because in a way I think that is easy because we are developers, right? So we are talking to people like us in a way, not having experience about how to sell actually things to developers, and sometimes not even having that as a main, not main, how to say, like not starting to a content kind of product with the idea that it should sell, but at some point you start wondering, like for example with Shoruby, I start wondering, okay, I want to make it sustainable and I want to grow it. So I will need some funds at one point, not only my time in it, that maybe I can delegate stuff or like pay for some other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So you start thinking about this, and for me was the idea, okay, how do we, I mean, for me some missing gaps that I know, probably a lot of them I don't know, are what kind of content, or how can we package things to sell to developers? This could be one. Like, how do we buy stuff? That is an interesting idea. Another one is, I don't know, just asking out loud, is it good to sell to developers, or to go more into the sponsorship like kind of thing? Like, okay, you don't ask for money for access, but you bring companies or some other parties that are interested. And of course there is a thin line there where what is interesting for the audience and what is not. And we know that well, I don't want to generalize, but as developers we are a bit picky about this kind of things, and we don't like too much ads or things that are not on the target, right? So
Yeah.
so if I don't know where to start, it's just a general idea. I started a bit with short Ruby, but I'm more into sponsorship kind of thing, because I cannot offer some kind of specific content for paid subscribers. So I just openly ask if they want to support the newsletter. They receive indeed I call it a pay version. It's just the same email that it does not have the please upgrade if you can afford it. So it's exactly a copy of the email without the how to say, the invitation to upgrade. That's the only difference. But
Right.
Substack does not allow me an if there, so I have to copy the entire newsletter. But yeah, that is the main idea. So from the experience, let's make it more concrete. Like, what kind of content can be, let me make it a bit more concrete, because that was a general thing. So here are some questions that we can start discussing. So one, it's what kind of content works? What kind of content developers are willing to pay? And when I say what kind, I want to keep it as general as possible, asking for the medium, I don't know, text, audio, video, I don't know what's more, but also about how technical it should be, or it should be like, I don't know, junior level, medium, senior, or what kind of content. This could be, I mean, I think maybe a starting point. I'm not sure.
Sure. And so Seb, I know that you had some responses to him, and you were kind of talking to him about some things in there. And one of the things that you just brought up that I think would also be kind of interesting to discuss is kind of when do you want to look for sponsorships, and when do you want to try to sell something in this content, right? What's kind of what are the decision factors that go into that kind of thing? So Seb, what are your thoughts on this topic?
Well, from my side, in terms of deciding whether I should go with sponsorship or focus on sponsorship or create a product, it was not really a decision. I just started with both and allowed to for people to sponsor my work if they will to. But the very first thing actually was the Rise API Udemy course that I released. And that was really important, because when I wanted to start reaching out to companies for a willingness to sponsor my work, I needed some kind of credit already. If a company would like to agree on any kind of sponsorship, you should be in a position where you can prove that you are eligible and trustworthy, right? And having a product out there that you already delivered, that provides value, that collects good responses, good reviews, is somewhat a trust proof, a proof of trust, and this is one thing. So starting from anything that you can be sold is easier. Of course, you can run your blog and run your channel like for a few years, and you will achieve similar things, right? But what I wanted to point out is having already a product out there that I could share, and I could just say to the company that I'm an author of this blog, but also I have a working and course out there. That was really useful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I think, yeah, and I think you're right. Kind of either having a product, you either have to have a product that you can sell, or you have to be able to build an audience to get a sponsorship, right? So, I think that's one of kind of the dividing lines is, because, like, for instance, the Rubber Duck Dev Show, we make zero money off of this. We don't have any sponsors. We don't sell anything. There's no subscriptions. It's all free. But that's because it wasn't my goal to monetize this. And, we talked a little in the pre-show about I wouldn't turn down sponsorships, but I'm not actively chasing them or pursuing them because I'm more interested in community building and stuff. I have a job. So I'm not depending on this for my livelihood. But I know that there are a lot of devs out there that put a lot of effort and work into stuff for the community. And I think that one of the things that Seb, you kind of alluded to was being upfront and building the trust. And I remember when Lucian came out with the paid subscription, he was very clear about, you're not going to get anything different. This is basically a sponsorship, right? Very upfront about that. And I think that's important. You know, you brought up that concept of building the trust for either of those things, being able to sell or being able to gather sponsorships. I think that's the important thing.
Well, when I started with Hanami Mastery, I launched the sponsorship immediately, and I didn't have my Rise course linked up there. And after publishing second article, because the videos were released after the article at that time, I could not manage to spend enough time on this to just release weekly everything at once. After second video I published, I got first sponsorship, and that was like a $1. Yeah, it was $1 sponsorship, and that like I flew. Like, it was so big motivation. Somebody gave me $1, and that was amazing. But the key was to just not stop, I guess. And at the very beginning, I had just few layers of sponsorships, like with $5 custom and 10 and 50 or $20 dollars. But I just read in one book that if you want to, I mean, if you're starting, you kind of can't imagine what is possible and what other people already achieved. And maybe what you are doing is a big value for other people, and other people just can and won't support you more. So you should never just stop and like restrict people from supporting you in the higher value if they can. So the very quickly I realized that, and I just created more plans for companies and for more wealthy people who could just maybe see big value and big need in my Hanami Master episodes, because there is just no alternative in the Ruby ecosystem to Rise, and no resources related to Hanami. So maybe there were just people who would will to sponsoring more, and that was actually a good decision, because I could just not imagine what people want and can do. So
right, and I think that's the big thing is like Lucian, when you started your newsletter, I don't think you imagined that it would be this popular and that people would care this much about it, right?
No, and I want to add something to one thing that I can add with my very limited experience. Yeah, first, I did not imagine that it will be so popular. Never imagined that someone will give any amount of money for it. I mean, it's, like, I'm a programmer, never crossed my thought someone will pay because I'm curating something. It's like a writing guy, or I don't know, editorial. And that is one. And second, yeah, I did something like, I listened, and I really recommend an episode that I kind of listened a couple of times without doing something specific. But it's an episode from the Art of Product podcast. It's episode 70, where Adam Watan and Steve and Ben, or they are talking about how they released this refactoring UI. And one thing, I mean, they talk about a lot of things there, but of course they have a big audience, so it's a bit on another sphere than me. But here is the thing from there that Seb was also mentioning, so I will be very interested to read the book that Seb was mentioning. One of them said there that you should put plans, like if you don't put higher plans, you don't give people a chance to give you more money. So even if someone wants to give more, if you don't have the option, they cannot do it, right? So when I started with the subscriptions for short Ruby, Substack has a thing that they call founding member, which I did not activate it, which usually they are putting it a couple of times than the normal yearly subscription, like something like this. And I saw the option there. Of course, you can change the value, but I was a bit I mean, come on, nobody was paying even a monthly thing. Who will pay more? Like I did not put it in the first or second email. Then I don't know. I remember about this podcast and I said, oh, come on, I will just activate it. I mean, nobody has to pay anything. And now there are actually a couple of people who decided to pay that. Also, people who decided to pay early. Like it's early. Like paying for 1 year. It's for me. It's still amazing. You know that and I agree with like what Seb is saying, that okay, if you, I mean, of course, I like you're saying, Chris, it's a sponsorship in Showroom. You don't get anything special, but putting a higher option, some people some people might want to or can afford to pay more. Actually, I wrote in the about, I'm saying, and I underline this, just subscribe if you can afford it. If these are money that they are not important, or else just like the newsletter should always be free, so nobody should be concerned that it will be hidden behind something.
Yeah. Yaroslav, welcome. I hope I said that right.
Yeah, hello. Yes.
Must be the perfect topic for me to be watching. So far I made $0 on Soup Rails in 2 years. Yeah. I feel you, man. We've been doing Rubber Duck for over a year now. And it's made me $0.00. So, but you know, so I feel you. Yeah, go ahead, Seb.
Okay, I thought that it would be worthy to actually tell a little bit why we are doing this.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, each of us has different motives and different situation, and I would love to point out what was my motivation to start monetizing this stuff. First of all, I started with video content creation, which is probably the hardest. I mean, the most time consuming from all of the all of those content creations things that I can imagine. And I really wanted to give a lot of value. And the problem was that I was the only one person in the world that is focusing around Hanami content. And that required me to do like crazy amount of research during the week. And I also have kids and have full-time job. And the only thing that I would be able to provide this service for long term was to reduce my daily job a little bit and delegate some work to other people.
Mm-hmm.
And both of that is very costful because I'm a developer and I cannot just afford to maybe I'm a developer, but I cannot just afford to reduce my job engagement just yet. And the other thing is that when you delegate some work, you need to pay, or you should pay. I mean, this is my standing. Like every work should be paid.
Yeah.
So when I delegate some work, I actually pay for it for people, even if this is open source contribution. If people just want to contribute to Hanami Mastery, they can say the price, we agree, and I send the money for this because I believe in so. And this forced me to monetize this part a little bit. And my goal is, I am still on my first goal, to reduce my job engagement by 1 day, to focus fully in that 1 day in content creation, and things, and that was my motives. Like this was the first one, right? And the second was that I noticed, as you mentioned, that there are tons of developers out there that maintain great open source libraries, and they often experience some kind of burnout because of not getting enough appreciation and enough payment, like reward for the work they do. And there are like billion-dollar businesses built on top of those libraries. And I felt like this is like completely insane and unfair, and wanted to change that. But to change that, I would need to make a difference. So I started Hanami Mastery with this idea of at least 10% of the income like being gave away to open source maintainers and contributions. But to make any difference, you need to generate some income, right?
Yeah.
And this was another motive to just scale up and monetize it more.
Yeah, because, you know, I could immediately give away 10% of our income, because 10% of 0 is 0. So yeah, you're right. If I can't give away, you know, rewards and stuff if I don't have anything coming in. So you're right. That's important. And Lucian, I wanted to kind of go back to a thing that you kind of alluded to, and that is, developers, I think a lot of times have this kind of fear of marketing and this sense that, you know, what I'm doing, nobody's going to want, nobody's going to be interested in it, nobody's going to care. So I'm not going to ask them to pay for it. Right. But I think as you discovered, that's not really the case. What you do has value, even if you don't think it does.
So here are a couple of ideas. One is actually I started thinking about, okay, I want to make this sustainable. I want to be able at some point to pay someone to help me. Actually, what Seb is saying now, I had a hidden thought that I hope to generate some kind of amount of income to donate back into community, which I think that I should put as a specific goal. I started to talk a bit with 2 or 3 people on Twitter, like on Demise, and I actually also received even the idea that, man, like you should just ask for access to it. So not put it free, just ask people to pay money to read it. Which for me, I took it as a compliment. Like, okay, it seems like you see so much value into this that you're thinking that someone would be able to pay for it. But still for me, the first intention of this newsletter, along with me wanting to do it for myself, is also a kind of way for me to contribute in the community. So I don't want to ask for access, but I would like to create some kind of things around it. And like Seb is saying, I would like to pay people who help me with it. So far, I don't know, I don't have help, but actually today I talked with someone that is junior in Ruby, that they want to help me open source my scripts that I have, that Seb at one point shout out, like, you should put them online when the Twitter was preparing to change the API.
Right.
So I want to put them there and give more access. And we're talking today, as I was calculating. Anyhow, I take I calculated that I give 50% out of all the sponsorship. A part it's going to Substack, 10%. Stripe, it gets somewhere about 15% in a way. I don't understand exactly. Maybe it's because the plans are short or something. Then, because I take this via an official, like, sole proprietorship, single company person in EU, I have 19% VAT that I need to pay, and then also there is some income on that thing that is between 10 and 16%. So it adds up somewhere around 54%. Maybe there will be some accounting thing that maybe I will need to pay an accountant. But the idea is that I was calculating that with everything that is paid, and people really, for me, amazingly, they give me. I mean, there are a lot of people who, for me, a lot of people for me, in my mind, from the number, the 0 number that I had before, that decided to pay. Still, I was calculating that, okay, I have, I don't know, between $10 to $20 maybe per edition that I can afford to pay. That's the everything, where I don't count hosting or some other stuff. And I said, okay, I mean, if I say to someone, I will give you $10 to I don't know, review this newsletter, I'm not sure if someone will say yes ever. But now I'm thinking still to maybe put there is this beginner's bounty or something. Maybe I will put even this small amount of money there, or I don't know. I talked today with a junior and said, okay, I cannot afford to pay you even a junior fee. So I can offer my help, my review, like, do pairing together. I don't know, I can try to put some extra value, but it's so small, but maybe for a bounding fee, we can put it, or I don't know. But I like the idea that I should maybe focus to make more money to be able to afford to pay more people.
Well, and I
Because
think
that
that's
could grow a bit more people.
that's kind of the mindset of most entrepreneurs is I want to create jobs for people so that other people can participate and make a living too. You know, they have a lot of that in the front of their head. So I think you're thinking like an entrepreneur there.
Let's see.
Yeah. One of the things that I kind of struggled with the beginning of this, and I still struggle with, is I approached Christian and talked to him about the idea for the show, and I wanted to do it just as a hobby, just because I like talking to people, I like meeting people, I like programming, I like project management, and I just wanted to do it as a hobby. And then, I started the coding with Chris because I was like, "Ooh, that'd be fun too. I want to do that as a hobby," and started doing that with the Dragon Ruby and stuff. And then now I'm starting this thing on the Discord where I'm hanging out and answering people's questions about streaming technology and stuff. And I'm starting to get to the point where I'm thinking, maybe I need to start making a little income off of this, because in order to take it any further at all, I'm going to have to pull back from my regular job a little bit. Right. So there's that, but there's also this fear of, if I start charging for this, or if I have people giving me money for this, then it feels like a job instead of a hobby. Right. So
now you have commitments you have to follow, and if you have a sponsorship, maybe they expect certain number of episodes per year, or
right. So I can't just say, "Oh, sorry guys, we're not going to have an episode next month on the 15th because I'm going on vacation," which it's not the 15th; it's at the beginning of May. But anyway, that's So what do you guys think about that kind of line between, you want to put content out there because you like to put content out there, and you put content out there and start taking money for it, and then you're committed?
Maybe I will start.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm very
Okay. Definitely, it's worthy to keep a track of the history of Risecasts that Ryan Bates is just started publishing, actually, and revealing what happened there, because he shares a lot of useful insights for people who would like to start with. This is definitely related to your question.
Mm-hmm.
So I will totally recommend this. But I myself, I agree with you. I mean, I did think genius maybe promise. I obligated myself to publish episodes weekly after official full Hanami 2 will be released. And it was so early, it was like development, pre-alpha even, when I started with this. And it was complete bad, complete risk. I just did not know if it will ever happen. But I had I added myself this freedom of missing episodes. I mean, I totally appreciate that. For example, Ryan Bates, 4 years, never missed any single Monday of releasing a Risecast episode. And this was a huge part of his success. And there are plenty of people who say that, consistency on YouTube, consistency in blog posting is just key, and you cannot start without it. And myself, I could not afford it. I mean, I totally could not. With 3 little kids, just third one recently was born. It was complete mess to just organize my life, and not even job included, and just put another obligation to weekly release episodes. That is a hardcore. So I could not afford that, and I wanted to start, and I wanted to help the community. So I did what I could, and with this just freedom. And it appears that Hanami 2 development took like 1.5 years. So I had plenty of time to optimize some processes and automate some stuff, then find some people for helping me and monetize the content a little bit, so I could post episodes more regularly. But even now, when I have like no power to write and record episode, I still need to do it. I mean, I obligated myself to do it, and this is exhausting, definitely. But I definitely have this kind of splitment. Like I still treat it as a hobby. I do it because I love it, and this is not my like the go-to. But there are some obligations. However, the same in sport. Like if you commit to do sport, you are going to trainings, and it doesn't matter if you want to or don't want to for a particular day. You still go to the gym or to hiking or whatever, because it's a commitment. Like it's a choice, and this is the same thing here. So for me, it doesn't really matter if I started making money or not making money. It doesn't matter. It's still a mindset in myself, in my mind, where I committed to do something, and even if I don't want to, I still trying to fulfill my promise. So yeah, it's not a big deal really.
Yeah. Let's catch up on chat a little bit. Yaroslav says, Hanami is a fantastic, unique niche. You nailed it 100%. I agree. Good job, Seb. And Sire says, for my app, since 8/1/20, it's made me 1.28K. Yeah, it's hard to make money in the app industry. A lot of times you gotta really put a lot of effort into marketing to make a living off of an app like that. It says, I mostly use Twitter to market utilizing hashtags, which I think helped a little bit. Just haven't done any posts lately. Yeah, hashtags on Twitter are good, and I think Twitter is good to use as a small part of your marketing. But especially lately, it's just gotten so there's so much going on in Twitter that being noticed is really hard to do. And that's true not just for Twitter, but for a lot of social media platforms. Using those for marketing is not the same as it was 5 or 6 or 7 years ago. Because they're just, and their algorithms are different and all that kind of stuff. So that's hard. Yaroslav asked Seb, what is your main motivation for creating episodes?
Whoa, my main motivation. It's really hard to tell what is the main motivation. Then I always wanted, like, I started working as a Rails developer, a Ruby developer. I met Ruby through Code School. Up then, the Greg Polak launched the Code School.
Mm-hmm.
And by finishing Rails for Zombies course, I got a free month to Ryan Bates Railscast. And this is how I discovered Railscast. And I watched like all of his episodes up then, like in a row. I just drank some coffee and so on. And I got my first job. I mean, now I'm here because of that content. And I always like to share and I like to teach. But it was hard, it was time consuming, and it was definitely the imposter syndrome that stopped me from doing that earlier. And I noticed, like, over years, like, when I came back to the community with this intention to start producing some content, I noticed that there were a lot of those. I mean, there were Avdi, Avdi Grimm that produced content. There were a lot of YouTube channels and Go Rise, for example. All of those like were super nice, and I felt like I'm not needed there. But over years, I started feeling a little bit bored with Rise and got some issues with it, and I discovered Hanami and just fell in love with it. So when I started digging into the code and noticed how much effort was put into this whole dry RB ecosystem, Roam RB ORM, and Hanami itself, how many hours it took. And I visited sponsorship, like GitHub sponsorships of those projects. I checked how many years they are in the community and how little recognition they got. And that just felt completely unfair for me.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to learn Hanami, and that was my main motivation to start digging into it. But there was really hard to find good resources, learning resources. There were problems with documentation, and I just started to helping with the documentation, with some producing some articles, some knowledge collecting this, and so on. And I just wanted to make this a thing. I mean, I wanted to make an impact in the Ruby ecosystem to bring some more diversity, because I felt like there is Rise and nothing else. There is great Rhoda framework and SQL ORM from Jeremy Evans, and there's almost no recognition for this. And there is a Hanami, right? But Rise still is like a monopoly here. And I wanted to bring more diversity, because Hanami brings completely different mindset of functional programming and stateless objects. It's just so new in Rise. I'm sorry. It's so fresh look in Ruby community to do same things, but in the more modern, better way, that I just wanted to have more spread, more recognition. And those were my main motivations. I mean, bringing more diversity to and innovation to Ruby ecosystem, and bring more recognition to open source developers. And this is why in my screencasts, I often highlight and make shoutouts for Ruby gems, not only Hanami related, but all framework agnostic libraries that are just great.
Yep. So Lucian, I've got a question for you in just a second, but I want to catch up on chat here. So Yaroslav says, feels like plus or minus 5 years ago, there was near to no good Ruby content. Now there's plenty. Yeah. And I think, I would encourage people to put more content out there. You may think that it's kind of a flooded market, but your particular perspective and your way of thinking about things and your views and your personality are valuable to the community. So put it out there, and don't be afraid of that. Just, we want to see you. Coderberry, I love this perspective. Rhoda is an unsung hero in the community. I think so. And there's a lot of unsung heroes.
I also will say something like a Ruby developer sounds much better than a Rise developer. Yeah. I do agree, but for years I did nothing except Rise. When I took a quiz, being a senior Ruby developer, I took a quiz if I'm Ruby or Rise developer. I just felt miserably. So I was not aware of which method comes from active support, and that was depressing, really. So yeah, for years I was just a Rise developer. I only a few years ago started shifting more into raw Ruby and understanding the language better.
So Lucian, I wanted to follow that up because that's an interesting question Yaroslav asked for Seb, but what is your motivation at this point for doing the newsletter?
Yeah, so my motivation, it's for me there are two main motivations. One, it's I still feel and it's a solution to a problem that I see, that there is amazing content shared in various places, not only Twitter. Also, I saw some amazing comments on Reddit, and I plan to focus so also more there, and also on LinkedIn, in multiple places. That is sometimes as good as some pages in a book, but is lost. And some of them are very fine grained, or a junior sharing a specific perspective, or a senior talking a bit about this, or a Ruby core developer adding a perspective somewhere. So very nice, not nice, maybe how to say, very amazing content share that is lost, and I kind of want to archive it, to put it somewhere, to have it in a way. The current format is a newsletter, but Eric at one point said that he wants an archive, and that is something that I really want to build, a searchable archive in a way, or a tree, or I still don't have the final yeah, maybe Ruby archaeology, yes. I don't have the final format of it, the final linked tree or something that you can. I mean, I want to be able, for example, to search for, I don't know, performance tips for N+1 queries, and okay, you can search on Google, but I want to see what these active people were saying about this. What are the insights that we had in the community? Because some of them are insights, let's say. And that is one. And second, it's I used Ruby. It's similar with what Seb said in what he said. I loved Ruby. I even shared today that I don't know, I was coding some Java, some PHP, some Python, and for me Ruby was like a liberating thing. No parentheses, writing code like English. I felt liberated, let's say, in a way. And it was because I had access to good content, and of course to friends or people who helped me out to learn it. Even no, it does not matter if it was paid or unpaid content, but the community was there for me to support my learning, and I want to pay it back. And I did not contribute to open source in all these years, sometimes because I felt that, oh, I'm not good enough to contribute to a Rails, or I don't know, Hanami or whatever. I mean, I'm not that kind of developer to contribute something to the specifics of it. But I see that having this newsletter free brings some knowledge into community. It's my way of contributing to it. But if you let me, I want to add some things listening to this conversation, which are mostly something that I will tell to myself to not,
Absolutely.
I mean, to bypass some beliefs about money and monetizing and passion. I think, I don't know what I would like to see. I'm not doing this. So this small speech is for future me, let's say, or for past me to hear it. And I think Seb, it's on the right track here. I found it as inspiring. It's yeah, I also have this fear about, okay, I have a passion, and if I ask for money for some parts of it, for a shape of it, then it becomes a job, right? Or a product, and there is commitment. But also it's, in a way, passion disappears, in sometimes, and it it will probably not go forever, right? This is one point. So anyhow, probably some passions, they can go forever, and some other passions, actually forms of passion, right? Because I don't know, doing a streaming, it's a form. Doing a newsletter, it's a form. It's a form of passion. Um, so the passion for coding remains, but the actual form, producing this type of content or the other type of content, might change, right? So this is one point. So if it changes, then why not try to say, I think it's good to monetize content. It's bad to lie about it. Maybe this is the fear that we have, that we say this is free, but at one point we say, but actually this is not free, you should pay. But being sincere about what is monetizing and what not, I think we should change for seeing everything that is monetizing as bad, or I don't know if you see it bad, but having a fear about saying, I want to monetize this. I think we should change this to think it's good to monetize. Why? Because this is a summarize of also what Seb was saying. Because I think if you try to monetize our content while helping other people, this does not say we should not do open source or not do free content, right? But trying to monetize, it means, in a way, to create a bigger pie for everyone, right? It means that we are able to pay other people to fulfill their own passion, or to sponsor back some projects that are now starting and they cannot monetize, but we can sponsor them, because we are, in a way, growing the community. I don't know how to express it better. This is just some thoughts that I put now, but I think we should try to monetize also out of the idea that this is a way to grow the community and to be able to afford to support more people to follow their passion without monetizing. So if you're in the position to be able to monetize, it's better to try it, and then maybe you can give back, or delegate, or pay some other people out of it. So I think that could be a nice switch of mindset. Sorry.
No, it's
Or
great.
this-
Great thoughts. Go ahead, Seb. Can't hear you.
Nice. I like looking at these things at just the money is a side effect of giving a value. You give a value for your employee as a developer, so he pays you money. And this is the same for content creations. You deliver a lot of this for free. You spend a lot of time for free. But a side effect of this is that some people can pay money for this. They can support you, and you can have extra value for finance, further work, and further projects. For example, we started with content for devs podcast only because I was able to monetize Hanabi Mastery a little bit. I just sponsored this, founded it, right? And this is pretty useful. I would never start a podcast without having some kind of backup already. So this is just a start for me, but definitely I don't see it as an obstacle. But if I have a hobby and want to be successful with it and have to make an impact with it, I need to invest the time into it. And to do that, I need to make this sustainable a little bit. So yeah.
Yeah, and that's a good point. And I think that's a good way. We're closing in on time here, so I'm going to take that as
one thing to add before we close up.
Go ahead.
So I know we were talking about different forms of monetization, and we've talked about sponsorships and products, sponsorships and products. Training courses are another thing. But another thing is consulting. So like if you are producing content of a particular niche area, you could become a consultant in that arena. And you could just say, hey, if you want help with this, give me a call, or here's a link and you can sign up and we can chat for an hour for some amount of money. Or if you want to do some sort of project in some extended basis, we could do it that way. Because actually, I also run Scaling Postgres as a weekly show, and actually producing the episodes has earned me $0. And I've done it for like 5 years, but actually doing consulting based on people finding me, following, and say, hey, I need some help with something now. And then they seek me out for assistance. That's something that does produce an income. So that's another area to consider.
Yeah, absolutely. So it can follow on to, you get to monetize your knowledge because you've displayed your knowledge to the public. And they see, this person knows what they're talking about. That's the person I want to get to come help me. Right. And you got to put that out there for people to find you. So I want to do some final things with chat here. Coderberry, Lucian's newsletter is the solution to Rails, Ruby, Twitter FOMO. I no longer need to watch Twitter constantly to find the content gems. Yes, I completely agree.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yes. And Feta says, shameless self-promotion. Speaking of Coda, we will be talking to Jeremy Evans next Monday with Seb. Yes, Seb and Feta do content for devs. They do a live show as well on Mondays, right, Seb?
Yeah.
So
join us as on the live stream, because you will be able to ask questions to Jeremy in yourself.
Right. Yeah. So, and just like here, they are live, so you can participate in the conversation. And I really, really like that format, which is why after this show, about 4:15, I'm going to hop on our Discord channel and hang out in the voice chat and have a streamer tech chat AMA, because I keep getting questions about how do you do this streaming stuff and what microphone do you need and what software you need. So we're just going to do that and have help each other out trying to figure out how to do this live stuff. But make sure you check that out Monday. Searchable archive of great Ruby tips sounds like a great bigger vision of what starts as a newsletter. I agree. I would love to see that, but I know that may take a minute or two to put together.
Yeah.
I love your mindset about create a bigger pie as opposed to get a bigger share of the pie. Yes, I completely agree. A rising tide floats all ships. So, that's a good mindset to have. So Cyrus says, so it's similar to having a portfolio for jobs. Yes, it absolutely is. Contributing to OSS is one way you can put your knowledge out there. Doing content is another way you can put your knowledge out there. Yep.
Yeah, just a quick shout out. I got my job as a senior Hanami developer. However, it sounds after 3 or 4 episodes being published on Hanami Mastery, and I did not think about Hanami. I just published how to start the developer version of the framework, like Hanami server start and showcase on this on video. And I started my blog because I wanted to learn Hanami quicker. And I got my job, and on the interview, I was like treated and seen as a Hanami expert, and I needed to clarify that. That was kind of embarrassing, but yeah, super useful to have a blog. Actually, that helps.
So I would encourage people to start putting content out there. Your stuff is valuable. Your stuff, the community wants to see it. I mean, I'm not special, but we have people watching the show. We have people telling me they like the show and that they're glad that we do this live. And, I can't even speak English very well, and I'm here hosting a show. So your stuff has value and content, and people will enjoy it if you put it out there. So I encourage you to put some content out there. Perhaps it can lead to something that you can monetize, or lead you to a better job, or lead you to a better sense of passion and fulfilling your passion. So just go do it. Just try it. You're good enough. I promise. If I'm good enough, you are definitely good enough. With that, I am going to, I'll let Creston take us out. Please make sure and join me over in the Discord in about 15 or 20 minutes after we tie the after show down, and we'll talk about some streaming tech. So, Creston.
All right. So thanks everyone for joining us. Thanks for everyone in the chat and for chatting it up. We greatly appreciate that. Thank you so much, Lucian and Seb. You guys are awesome. Thanks for coming on. Greatly appreciate that as well. So the Rubber Duck Dev Show airs every Thursday, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you want to get replays of the show, they are available at rubberduckdevshow.com. And they are, of course, also have been streamed to YouTube, Twitch, and podcast is available as well. And if you want to get an email notification whenever a show comes out, feel free to sign up at rubberduckdevshow.com. In terms of our show next week, we're going to have Amir Rajan on again, talking about IDEs again. So analyzing your IDE to find the right fit. So we're going to be another discussion on the IDE front. So if you want to join us, please check us out next week. Other than that, thanks again, everyone. And with that, happy coding.
Happy coding.
Bye.